Hey everybody, it's Chris Maher. I'm here with a new bonus episode of from On the Water Break. This bonus is going to be focusing on the lives and stories of some of the important people in our activity, namely the photographers. Join me and some super talented people as we go on a water break behind the lens. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of On a Water Break Behind the Lens. I'm here with another photographer friend who has been doing this for quite a while, and many of you know him. He's Russ Tamakaya.
Hey Chris, thanks for inviting me back. It's great to be here. Some exciting times that we're starting this summer, right? The shows have been announced.
Absolutely, yeah.
You see the music lists out. I saw some sneak previews of some props on the field the other day, so I'm raring to go. What are you doing?
This is kind of slow season for me because nothing really has started yet. But I do have a couple little weekend things. The big thing was last weekend, the Crossman Alumni Corps were practicing about 15 minutes from here. And they invited me to come over and do some photos for them and write an article for Drum Corps World. So I got to see about 140 out of the 350 members learning their stuff. So that was really super exciting. And Friday night at Lucas Oil is going to be a blast.
Fantastic. Did Bones make an appearance?
Yes, actually, Bones was there. They kind of had him just kind of hanging up on a mannequin sort of thing.
Cool.
But yeah, the costume was there and all of that. So that was cool.
Very good.
So things are looking good with the Pacific Crest.
Oh yeah, they've been in moving camps for all week, and they've been practicing pretty solid for the last month on the weekends, and. We had a great run last year where we almost got to Saturday night, and it's getting real exciting this year because I think they've got a good show.
Okay. That's exciting. Well, I guess both of us we're just getting ready to roll with the Drum Corps season, and I think maybe it's time to bring in our first guest. I've got here with us Marissa Gagliano. Welcome, Marissa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So on this podcast, we have this tradition of doing your life story in 32 counts. And so I welcome you to tell us all about yourself in 32 counts. You'll get 8 on the metronome, and then you can start.
All right, I'll do my best. So I was born and raised on the Jersey Shore. I got involved with both photography and color guard at high school. And after high school, I went to university for photography. I earned my bachelor's, and I've also been involved with both Drum Corps, Independent Winter Guards, and ever since then, I have also been freelancing in both DCA, DCI, and WGI groups. And I'm so happy to be a part of the photography community here.
Okay, good job. So I know Marissa from both a fellow photographer, but also the subject of my photography. I've had the pleasure of watching her perform. She's a wonderful performer, as well as a wonderful photographer. So lovely to have you here. One of the things that I always wondered about you is how much does your performing influence the way that you photograph?
A lot, actually. Being a performer myself, you just understand what performers are looking for and what they would love in their action shots. So it's just like you just understand what the performers are just looking for. And a lot of the time, I also am inspired by a lot of other stuff that I put into my photography as well.
Our next guest, I've known for a couple of years because he is a super volunteer out in Pacific Crest in Southern California. He's an extremely multifaceted photographer. I see him year round because he shoots winter guard, winter drumline, summer drum corps, and I see him at every Pacific Crest event. So please welcome my good friend Chris Campos.
Hello, good evening. Great to be here.
So why don't you give us your 32 count introduction of you?
Awesome. Let's do it. All right. Well, I'm originally from Santa Barbara, California. Came down to the Inland Empire area to go to Cal Poly Pomona, study. My background actually is in mechanical engineering. Worked in the engineering field for over 25 years and still doing it today. Did marching band in high school. I have two sons who've been in music probably since the sixth grade and now do indoor percussion, Pacific Crest, and just been really around activity, doing multiple high school media, as well as independent groups from Rocky, Powell, Pulse, and Pacific Crest now.
Fantastic. Before we let Chris Campos get away from us, I think one of the most intriguing parts of his repertoire is that he is also a licensed Part 107 drone pilot. And so we've been using Chris's talents at Pacific Crest to do a lot of our opening high-impact videos because it's such an awesome genre. And it's kind of new. And I think a lot of photographers mistakenly think that if they can buy a drone, they can fly it around our performers. And that's not really true, is it, Chris?
No, there's a lot of safety aspects that go into it with flight, right? Flying a drone puts you into federal airspace. Anything 1 foot off the ground is not city territory, state territory. It's federal governed air. So, when you're flying around people, flying around hospitals, facilities, airports, there's a lot to know about. And being a professional pilot, having a Part 107, there's about a quarter of what a normal airline or airplane pilot would have to learn with the airspace, weather, restrictions, codes, and how to properly fly. And it's a license just like anybody else who's a professional, whether that be a dentist, a lawyer, real estate agent, you're governed by doing the right thing.
Okay, that's great. So one of the things that I think photographers probably talk about more than anything else is gear. Just curious. I'm a Sony shooter. Curious what everybody else is shooting with these days.
Sony's the only way to go. I'm with Chris Maher. I think Mr. Campos is. I'm trying to convince him to get over to Sony, but last time I saw him, he's shooting Canon. Don't you shoot Canon?
Yeah, definitely a full-on Canon shooter from day one. Yeah, for sure.
Nikon user, but I definitely want to switch to Sony.
Okay, yeah, and I've actually passed down some of my Nikon gear to Marissa. So when I was switching, so what's your normal backpack look like when you go off to to a show? What are you carrying with you?
I carry two Sony bodies and a 24-70 on my hip to get close-up shots when they're walking on, a 70-200 when they're on, and I've also got in my pack a new 60-600 zoom when I'm far away and I got to get on to those students that are way at the back of the field. Mm-hmm. We get those emails from those parents. How come I never see my kid out there on the social medias?
Well, I got a new backpack. Mine got pretty gross after a tour with Crown. So it's smaller, but it's definitely more sturdier than the last one. I mostly carry my zoom lens, and with the exception of a 35 millimeter camera lens, that's pretty much all I need when I go to drum corps shows.
For me, I carry way too much gear because I'm usually driving trucks and can take a little bit more with me. So camera bag wise, specifically, I usually have my 85 1.2, my 300 1.2, which is kind of like a sports lens to get back there. And if I'm in the lot watching the drumline or front ensemble, I usually try to bring something a little bit wider. I've been playing around with the 16 1.8 just to be like in the moment, like in amongst as close as I can get. And then I have a a small little gimbal mount for my iPhone and a 3D camera, which I haven't had a chance to play with very much because I always forget I have it. And I never bring it out because I'm shooting with the regular camera. But I want to try to just get a little bit more creative and look at different angles and things.
Yeah, very good. I've got a lot of gear, and I travel with different things at different times. But usually there's something wide and something long, on the two bodies for drum corps and marching band, and for indoor there's often three bodies involved. So just kind of depends on the situation. My new favorite thing is the new Sony 300 f2.8. Nice light little prime, really sharp and fast. So that I've got to start working that into my drum corps photography this year. So different people have different styles of shooting. Do you have a sense of like how many pictures you typically would take? Let's take a typical drum corps performance, start to finish. What do you usually come out with?
I think depending on the size of the show. When we're in Indianapolis shooting, we want to make sure that we don't miss a single shot. And I go crazy because I've got that new Sony A1 Speed Demon, and I press that shutter down, and I walk away with 10,000 images in an afternoon, which is just way overkill. But I haven't missed too many shots lately that way. But I wish I was more disciplined about that because it's just way too many shots.
Typically, I'd probably be in the range of about 500. I try to pick and choose, that optimum moment, and I try not to get too many where I'm having to go through and choose out of 5 photos. I usually try to get 3 of a one particular shot, and just waiting for that moment. I'm always looking at the performer, if their horn's up or if there's a flag coming across or a rifle throw. You kind of see them, and I really, when I go to practices, try to study the show. And I actually will sit back and watch a run and record on my iPhone what I'm seeing on the field so that I know certain moments are happening or when they're going to happen. And obviously it's going to progress over the year, but I'm trying to look for key moments. And then at different shows, I'll probably position myself on side 1 or side 2 and try to focus on capturing whatever that highlight's going to be. And do my best to capture everybody because I don't want to leave anybody out. For those kids who don't see a shot for themselves, I try to post things up so everybody can be seen and appreciate the performance that they're doing.
I agree with Chris on that. I mean, I love to make sure everybody gets an action shot. As for me, I can go past 600 or more. I love photography so much. Sometimes I just get lost in it and I just keep taking photos, Sometimes the number can get lower when I memorize the show well enough, and I know those key moments in the show that I'm like, that would make a great photo.
Now, the three of you have a group usually that you're kind of most closely associated with. Pretty much all my photography is whatever's there at the show. There's no group that I spend my time with. So a lot of bands, particularly in the fall, I see them just once. So I am trying to get everybody that I can. But my goal is always to get good shots, and sometimes people just don't give you an opportunity to get a good shot. So you just gotta kind of have to live with that. But I try to take some wide shots to compensate for that. Marching band, I'm usually around 150 shots or so per band, and for drum corps, it's usually around 250 per corps per performance. So
I wish I was as smart as all the rest of you guys.
So one of the things that becomes important when you're out there taking a lot of shots, I mean, you shoot all day, you're going to come back with 5,000, 10,000 photos. How do you deal with your digital asset management?
Well, I travel with 3 or 4 terabyte SSDs so that I, when I get home, I can download them to a desktop that's backed up by, 22 megabyte or 22 terabyte large disk that I keep for the season so that I don't throw away anything too early. But yeah, that's a big problem because you've got so much information there.
Yeah, I mean, usually when I'm shooting indoor, I have definitely a lot more time. if I'm supporting drum corps, I'm not with Pacific Crest. I'm not. I shoot because I'm there, but usually I'm driving trucks, or last year I was on food crew. And so, we go to the show, we have nothing to do. So we go and watch shows, but I'll be double duty, shooting the show from different areas of the field, and try to not only be on the field, but try to even be in the stands up a bit if I can, get away with it. But, and then just get him into a drive as fast as I can. And whatever time I have available on the road, try to then go through those super fast and just dump as much as useless stuff I can get rid of, and then go back and do editing when I have time. But when you're supporting in multiple different areas, and even I work on props, I helped build props last year and this year. And if there's a prop issue that comes up, I jump on that wagon too and try to do what I can to amongst everything else. So, yeah.
Chris Maher, didn't you just have a NAS system built for yourself?
Yeah, I did. I just got a Synology NAS network attached storage, and it's got RAID configuration, so there's redundancy built in. It's 96 terabytes, 64 terabytes of which are usable. The rest of it's dedicated to the replication for the NAS. And I've got about 12 terabytes of free space left. So it's a lot. So I definitely, I delete the stuff that's not good, that's not worth posting, but that's only like 5 to 7% of what I shoot. So most of my stuff I keep.
And you can access that from your laptop anywhere in the country when you're traveling, so it's
apparently
more convenient.
I haven't
right?
tried that yet, but we'll see. I think you need to have a good internet connection to be able to pull that off. But I regularly move stuff over there, during the course of the season.
For me, Winter Guard is so much easier to go through my shots. Throughout the day, I like to go through my camera and just quickly skim through what I've taken photos of. I'll delete some I don't like. Winter Guard, it's like you have prelims and finals, so the photos just start to add up. So whatever I get, I just deal with at home. Drum corps is a lot difficult because I don't feel comfortable bringing my laptop. I didn't feel comfortable bringing my laptop with Crown either, but I had to, so I can edit on the road, obviously. The worst part, though, is when you go to schools and the Wi-Fi is horrible, and it just makes it so much harder to work,
Yeah, I almost never bring my computer with me, but I did for one 4-day event that we had at the end of the indoor season, and I just kept loading cards and pulling things in, and it's a lot to try to kind of manage that and take pictures at the same time. I like to focus on one thing at a time, so yeah.
It's such a headache. Mm-hmm. And then the buses have Wi-Fi, but they don't even work either. So that you just can't win.
At Pacific Crest, we bought media team specific hotspots so that when our team is on the bus and they can edit through the night if they want to. People like Chris have got other jobs that they're doing, so they might be driving at the time, but we have interns that they can't stand it if they don't start editing right after they get off the field. So we put them in the bus, turn on the hotspots, and let them get all of their stuff done. Might be something to look into.
Yeah, well, people want to see their photos right away. That's when they're most excited about them, is right after you took them. So
yeah, you're right.
So you want to feed that beast.
It's always like opening a little present, right? You're just so excited. What did I get?
Exactly.
Okay, so we're going to send everybody out to the band room to get your uniforms and get lined up so we can get our band picks taken. We will be right back with more Behind the Lens.
Hey everyone, it's Jeremy, the producer from On a Water Break, the main show. And while you're enjoying this great bonus content from some amazing hosts, there's a whole other show happening with guests, news, and plenty of other fun things that you and your friends are talking about on a water break. So take a moment, go subscribe so that you can get your notifications every week for the main episode of On a Water Break. If you have news or know of somebody that would be a great guest, or maybe you would be a great guest, email us at onawaterbreakpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to follow us on social media at onawaterbreak. And now back to this fantastic bonus content.
and we'll see you at the show.
Okay, we are back on the sidelines, and we want to ask our guests to go back in their memories and dive into some of their photos that they've taken over the years. And hopefully we'll get some pretty fun stories out of it. So let's see. How about the best photo ever? Chris Campos?
Well, I took a great photo. I thought I like doing candids. I'm not one photographer to have people look at me and pose or smile. I like them actually in the performance or get them in amongst them, the other members hanging out. And we were doing a Pulse preview show at the beginning of this year for indoor, and snare line was just lazily sitting against the wall, and some guys were talking, some were just like lazily sitting there, and I shot them, a pretty good group of them, of just hanging out, and I turned it into black and white, and it was just really cool, just hanging out. And it was like a bunch of wise guys, and I had put on there the Pulse Mafia, Snare Mafia, or something like that, and those guys started running with that. Because I mean, they took world championships, right, the third one in a row. But these guys were just killers in what they were playing, and Rami and Kobe and all those guys, they loved that shot. I gave it to them. I think I gave a copy of that to some of them at the awards banquet that they had. But it was I just like catching people in the moment, and that's just part of life, right? Those are just life memories.
Great point. I know Marissa's got one.
Oh my God. It was so hard to pick best photo because there's so many I like, and I keep the ones I like. There is one photo I did think about, and it was this time at Crown, and it was during spring training. And there was this part where the whole snare line comes forward, and I was taking a photo of them, but I was laying on my stomach and my camera was on the ground, and I was just taking photos from there. And I really like the perspective of how that photo came out, where you can obviously see I'm on the ground.
Great, unique angles. That's what it's about sometimes. And
Oh, absolutely.
I think I've worked with Chris Maher for many years, and I'm interested to hear what he says about his most famous photo and what genre it really comes from. Is it drum corps? Is it drumline?
Yeah.
Is it winter guard?
So every year I go through my 250, 300,000 photos, and pick out my top 100 photos, which is just absolutely brutal to do. But once I get that down, then I end up with my favorite photo of the year. So every year, if you go back to my blog, back to 2013, you'll read the story of my year in photography, and my favorite photo will be at the end of that. One of my favorite photos that I've ever taken was of Southern Regional High School at championships in the rain. Three snare drummers were kind of coming from the backfield, coming at me, and they just had such attitude on their face, and the rain was just pouring down. And it was a moment that they all remember, that the parents all remember, that people bring up to me all the time with that band. And interestingly enough, a few years later, my favorite photo was also of Southern Regional High School in the rain, at a championship event. There was a regional championship event, and the show had been delayed because they thought they'd be able to get more of the show in before the rain came, but the rain came earlier, and it just really came right down upon Southern Regional. Southern Regional and the group after them, Brick Memorial, had the worst rain. And it also, by that point, had gotten dark. So the rain really was effective in the photo, which is the most important thing. So when you're shooting in the rain, you want to slow your shutter speed, so that you really elongate those raindrops. So I'm shooting slower than I normally do. So you got to worry about stabilization. At the very end of the show, this one saxophone player just kind of like stops and just points up to the sky, and the rain is falling down. And it was a really emotional moment. And I knew as soon as I took that shot, that was going to be a favorite for that year. So rain shots are some of my favorite shots.
Me too. Except when
except
when you're in the rain.
Well, yeah, what you got to go through to get those shots. And the other thing, that second shot, I ended up getting rain damage on my camera, even though I had them in pretty good rain covers. Some rain kind of got down in there, and my back button wouldn't focus anymore. Could only focus with the shutter. So I had to send it off for an $800 repair.
Oh gosh.
But it was worth it. It was worth it because I had bought the warranty, so the camera store paid the $800, and I got the photo. How about you, Russ? What's a favorite photo for you?
I think my favorite photo from last year was actually inspired by Chris Campos. He takes such awesome pictures because he's so selective, we know. And last year he shot a scene at Pacific Crest. It was called Jenna's Hurricane. It was about a 3 or 4 second scene where the guard is just swirling on the field like a hurricane. And I had seen a shot that he had taken. I thought, man, I really want to take a shot like that. And the guard members are just hyping with their faces, with their bodies. The flags and the rifles are going everywhere. And Jenna was sitting on top of a young man's shoulders who also is hyping. And there was 10 or 12 faces in the photo with everybody just bringing the emotion. And it was, that was my best shot, or my favorite shot last year.
It was a good moment in that show. Yeah.
Sure. I remember you telling me about that and how much you were trying to get that shot. So it's always good when that happens. So what about like a weird photo or a funny photo or bad photo or something like that? Anybody have any stories about the less successful situations?
I have the scariest photo. I think it was of the ceiling of Lucas Oil Field because Chris Maher, you remember in the olden days, we could actually almost go to the sidelines on Lucas Oil Field. We had less restrictions there. And I had never seen the Phantom Regiment show. It was that year that they played The Swan. Remember that? And I was standing on the field and I heard whoosh. And when I looked up, a flag had just been swooshed around my head. The girl had come off the field. She was standing maybe 5-6 paces off the field where I was standing, and still in her routine, swung it, and I could feel the wind on the side of my face. And when I snapped a picture, of course, my camera wasn't aimed anywhere close to the field. It was straight up.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we're a little further back now, right?
That's exactly
the safety zone. So yeah, I always feel like there's a contract between the photographers and the designers to like make sure they don't cross that line. And some situations those frontline, particularly like exhibition things or college bands. I do a collegiate festival, and you just never know what's going to happen, where they're going to go, when they're just going to rush the stand. So I know like where safe places are to stand, like right near the speaker, because they have to go around that. Or go hide like in front of the pit.
Good point.
So.
I'd never been to college band shows, so if I went there, I wouldn't know what to expect either.
For me, in terms of worst photo, it's hard to switch up from shooting a performance to shooting a group, and I couldn't get back to my camera bag to get the lens I wanted to. It's kind of wider, and I just had an 85, so it's kind of shooting kind of close up for an indoor show, but Pulse always brings all the members from alumni and everybody sits there. And I was just kind of felt rushed for some reason. And, they want to post that as, part of the we're going to get started in the new year. But it just, my focus was off, felt rushed, and like, oh, you want to do a group shot. So it just wasn't great that I had wanted to. And I'm looking at it, and I shot about maybe 4 or 5 pictures just to see. And none of them came out great. And they're like, "Oh, did you get that shot? Awesome! Yeah, thank you so much." It's like, yeah, I got it, but I didn't have the right f-stop, but my lighting changed and just felt rushed. Where like, I got it for you, but I'm not sure how happy you're gonna be with it. But it's you get into some of those weird situations sometimes and have to switch up, and you don't have the right things. You just try to do the best you can, and sometimes it doesn't always work out as you hope.
I agree with Chrissy. Group shots are always make me nervous because it's so hectic to get everybody together and to make sure everybody's there. The worst was the time I had to take a group shot of the brass at Crown, and somebody was not in the photo, and They asked me, "Can you Photoshop them in?" And I was like, "Yup." No one knows that they were Photoshopped, and I'm not going to even say who. So,
Wow.
but yeah, that's always hectic to
Yeah.
do group shots.
Because lighting's
And I just,
bad. And
yeah.
it's never just right. Or somebody's like, out of 5 shots, somebody's turning, looking the other way, or somebody's talking. You're like, come on. It's like,
They're blinking.
yeah, it's never good.
Makes me nervous.
Not my favorite thing either. So I think we probably all have group shot photos we could complain about. Well, I remember one of the funniest things that I thought that happened to me was I was at MetLife Stadium and doing awards photos, and they did this outside the main arena where they had this little stage, and behind it they had this computer graphic, and it turned out my eye autofocus grabbed the eye from the picture that was being displayed. So of course my photo was out of focus, but I didn't realize it right away, so I couldn't take the shot. So that was I learned that when I shoot there, turn the eye autofocus off and just aim for a body and just go with that. But it was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And I have had that happen. Have you ever had that happen with like any other like props or things like that the camera thinks, oh, that's the really important thing, let me go grab that?
All the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time.
It could be funny.
I mean, yeah, if you get reflections in a window or a mirror, that'll do that too, right? Because if you have a good reflection, think that's the person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just not. No, that's not it.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody's arm or leg.
Yeah.
So where are places that you really like to shoot? What are your kind of favorite locations?
I like the big professional football stadiums that have the best lighting. I love shooting there because you can get your best work done there. Some of the challenges of these smaller high school stadiums, I think they're trying to save money on the lighting or something like that. And you're shooting at the limits of your camera, and the photos just aren't as good as they are in places like Lucas or Mercedes-Benz or San Antonio, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, definitely. You got some good lighting spread around. Yeah, high school stadiums, they're tough. They're not meant for good photography. It's meant just to see a football game. Indoor as well. Indoors bad because, again, it's not great lighting, and it's just not intended for good all-around spatial lighting. But I tend to, for drum corps, I know we kind of go on early in the evening, so that twilight or even that golden hour sometimes we get just right, and you can catch the skies just perfectly for setting in the background. And so I kind of favor that early, maybe 7 o'clock hour of showtime that we normally sit in, and kind of give you some pretty awesome lighting effects.
Okay, before we let you go, we do a segment on the water break called "What Are We Doing?" Where you get to talk about anything that may be bugging you or you think you'd like to see better in the marching arts. So, Russ, why don't we kick it off with you?
What are we doing? I think my biggest observation at this point is that, the photographers, we all want the same thing. We want to show these incredible people doing incredible things. But what are we doing? We don't even know what part of the field they might be on, especially at the beginning of the season. I wish that designers or the creatives would share that information, just like they prep the DCI judges ahead of the season on what the show's about, things to look for, where the moments are, so that their judges are zeroed in on all this incredible talent. And then I find myself standing on side 2 when all this stuff's happening on side 1. And I think, what are you doing?
Okay. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I kind of something along with lines with Russ is saying too. We kind of get, and the art can be very abstract, right? And trying to understand shows, and I probably don't get the show until mid-season, and I finally figure out, what is the background. I would like to have in a show program kind of give that to us, right? Because then we can kind of interpret what those objects are, what the shape is, what the color scheme they're using, and it makes sense. Some are easily readable, some aren't. But if you could give that from everything they take in the design aspect of pre-show to make it, and so the average person can interpret it, it would help just bring a lot more appreciation for what they're presenting. And then for us photographers to be able to like see those elements quite vividly and then capture those specific items, so we can present that show even better.
I'm on the same page with Russ and Chris. I feel like we need more context with each show that comes out, both Winter Guard and Drum Corps. I mean, like Chris said, art is subjective, and it's so cool to see everybody's creation. But sometimes, we're not all on the same page. So sometimes I don't understand what I'm looking at, and that's fine. But I would like to know. I would like to get into the inside of the artist.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think at this point I've kind of given up trying to understand shows, and what I do, my whole thing is to try to center myself and feel where energy is coming from, and basically who's saying I'm ready for a photo now, and try to listen to the performers deep inside myself. And so what I always want from a show is a show where the designer brings everything to me. And you see this a lot, in indoor, where you have shows where you can pretty much count everybody's going to move around enough that you're going to see everybody, and then you have shows where the only time you see certain people is when they're in the back in the flag ensemble. It's like bring everybody to me. That's probably my biggest thing, is like, make it, give everybody the opportunity to shine, and have them, give forth that energy that's going to draw my camera lens to. Because I can't keep track of. People can tell me, oh, like in the beginning of the second number over on side 2, there's going to be this thing. I will forget that as soon as you finish telling me. Sometimes parents will tell me, like, something like, oh, my kid, whatever. I was like, here's what you need to do. You need to tell me right before they go on, because I've already forgotten what band you're talking about right now. Like I can't hold on to that information. There are too many things that are happening today, too many bands, and I don't know any of the kids. So they're all just out there for me. So
yeah, and it goes by in a blink of an eye, right? I mean,
yeah, it's so fast.
People even ask me with my music background, what do you think of the show? And I'm like, well, I think I hear some elements here and there, but I'm always focused on my frame and what I'm shooting and waiting for that rifle to be thrown, or the sticks from the battery to be in a certain position. I'm so focused on my frame and what I'm trying to capture and tell a story with that image, that I'm not listening to music whatsoever. It's just focused solely on, that moment. And I'll hear things, and I can kind of give a little bit of interpretation. Maybe I heard, maybe battery off time a little bit or something, but it's usually not the good things you want to hear coming from me after a show, because it's totally about the frame and getting the shot. It's not about like hearing or, how many drops or, this person had or that person or something. It's just all about the frame for me at that point.
Yeah, that's funny. Sometimes I've had. Oh, weird. Okay.
Okay. To some gush and goes. We'll start with Chris Maher.
Okay, so one of the things that I just absolutely love about the activity is the way that it empowers the performers. There's something that's just totally amazing to me about, you look at these kids when they're in rehearsal and they're just on the sidelines, or they're in the cafeteria and they're just wearing their normal school clothes or whatever, and then you put them in a uniform and you teach them some skills and you put them out in the field, and they become a different person. They just get transformed. And that's what I'm always trying to capture in my images, is that empowering feeling that they're feeling at that moment when they are a performer. And that to me is just absolutely the best thing about the activity.
And how about Chris Campos?
I like the intensity that the performers have, right? And whether that's battery, there's a couple kids that I always look forward to. I've shot them over the years through different independents and even in a drum corps. I'm sure, Russ, Carissa from the front ensemble. They're very passionate when they play, and they have so much body feeling and emotion in their face, and just are in the moment. And that can go for a horn line, somebody on bass drum or anything. It's just they're feeling the music and they're giving it all, and that's the essence of it, whether it's even color guard, right? They're screaming, they're yelling, that intensity in their face, and they're just putting it all out there. And that's what I love capturing in the moment of that passion that's coming through them, and putting it all out in the field. And then they're full on exhausted. Even the drum majors, for that matter, they're out of breath and they're just directing, right? They're not running the field or anything, but they're just sweating just like everybody else and out of breath at the end of the show. So I think that intensity is the thing that just keeps me going.
Fantastic. And Marissa?
To me, it's the overall community for me. I've been a part of this activity since high school, and I'm 30 years old now, and I'm still active. Well, I'm not marching, but I'm still part of this community. And, having friends and meeting new people and learning new things as both a performer and a photographer in the marching arts, it's just amazing what we can do together as a community. And I will admit, taking photographs, it does make me miss marching so bad. It really does. And the intensity, the overall energy you get performing under the stadium lights, watching the audience scream, it's just something you can't recreate,
And for myself, I have one main gush to share with everyone today. Watch Pacific Crest early in the season. They're going to shock you. And I just have one word to leave you with today. Ramalama Bang Bang.
I know what you're talking about, Rich.
All right. Well, thank you to these amazing photographers. We know you'll all be out there capturing memories this season and in other contexts. So thank you so much for joining us. To just kind of wrap up here, Chris, is there a place where people can find your stuff on social media?
Yeah, I'm just primarily on Instagram at Chris Campos _PM, which stands for photo and media. During the season, I'm posting like crazy, and posting, do some media work just as like scores, where we're standing and things like that. So throw up stories and reels on the road, and have a lot of fun doing it.
Okay, Marissa, how about you? Where do we find your stuff?
You can find my stuff primarily on Instagram at Marissa _Gagliano. And I am in the process of putting together a Smug Mug account. So keep an eye on that. And you will definitely see me at some shows just freelancing. So I will definitely see you, Chris.
Okay, that sounds great.
Great.
I literally just got on Instagram yesterday.
Yay!
Here we go. So for those of you who've been around the activity and me for a while, you know that Core Reps is my brand. So my username, I think you find me with @Core Reps. That's how you'll look for me. So, and Russ, where do people find your stuff?
I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. And I also have RussellTanakai.smugmug.com. And Chris Campos and I post thousands of pictures on the Pacific Crest Smug Mug every season also. Yep. Now you all know what to do. Go subscribe, write us a review, share this podcast with a friend, and follow us on social media at On a Water Break. Don't forget to check out our YouTube for full-length video editions of some of our podcasts, and we'll see you at the next performance on a Water Break, Behind the Lens.
The On a Water Break podcast was produced by Jeremy Williams and Christine Reed. The intro and outro music was produced by Josh Lyda. To learn more, visit lydamusic.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in.